Hey everybody, Donnie here. Now, this is a different kind of story, but it's a wild one. Am I the a-hole for telling my son I'd rather have his ex-wife as a daughter than him as my son after he got cut out of the will? And this does follow with an update. 16 years ago, my son Matthew had a daughter with his now ex-wife Josie. I've always thought of Josie as my own daughter, so when they divorced 7 years ago due to my son cheating, I was conflicted and disappointed. Josie wasn't particularly close with any of her family, so my husband and I naturally took them in. Josie was an angel. She has insisted that we didn't have to lift a finger more than before we had taken them in, and though she was hurt, she kept civil around Matthew. My husband and I held a huge hand in raising their daughter, Ruth, because Matthew remarried less than a year later and now has a 4-year-old son after disowning Ruth 2 years ago. My husband was diagnosed with lung cancer. It was hard on everyone, especially Ruth. They were extremely close. She told him about her girlfriends and boyfriends before anyone else, and has always wanted him to be the one to walk her down the aisle at her wedding. Matt rarely ever visited him and didn't answer our calls often, saying that we had other kids, so it wasn't like my husband was dying lonely. Last night, Matt stopped by to talk about inheritance. He never mentioned Josie nor Ruth and hinted that he thought he should get more inheritance than his siblings the entire time. My husband and I shed awkward looks until we decided to cut in. He explained that everyone would get a piece, but he'd focus more on Ruth and Bonnie, one of our other grandkids. Matt got angry and said that Ruth was just a bastard and that his son deserved more than her. My husband got furious after that and then left the room, saying that he wouldn't include Matthew at all. Matt yelled back and turned to me, saying that Ruth wasn't worth it because she'd just grow up to be a you-know-what like her mother. I told him I'd rather have her mother as my daughter than him as my son and insisted that he leave. I'm getting phone calls from Matt's wife and family friends saying that my husband and I overreacted and he was just angry that we were playing favorites. Am I the a-hole? And a quick edit to clear some things up. Josie did not cheat on Matthew. Josie and Matthew met later in college, and Josie was known as a party girl before that. Ruth isn't the product of an affair, but we are planning on getting a DNA test because what Matthew said has gotten under Ruth's skin. She was at the house when this occurred and overheard it. When it came to taking in Josie and Ruth, we didn't hesitate because Josie is not from here. She and Matt lived in another country until he moved them here a few months before he got caught cheating, and they had nowhere else to go as Josie was a stay-at-home mom. I had no intentions of choosing Josie over Matt then and now, and I never discouraged Matt from visiting. I tried to make it very clear that we weren't picking and choosing when we took Josie in. We just wanted her and our granddaughter to be safe and have a good home. Now, I hope we're going to get some more additional information in the update as well, because there's so many questions going through my head. Why is Matt acting like this? Not excusing behavior at all, but for him to say, Ruth wasn't worth it because she'd just grow up to be a you-know-what like her mother. Why does he think she's what's going on there? Is he just being literally an a-hole in the situation? I mean, what was he doing turning up to talk about inheritance? Was he invited round, or did he just turn up just like that to talk about it? Again, that doesn't feel like normal behavior to me. And disowning your child? I mean, from the info we got here, it's absolutely going to be a not the a-hole in this situation, but I hope we do get some more of that information just to tie those ends up. Not that it matters anyway. I think it's a not the a-hole. But Doan Quippers says, make sure to leave him and his son $1 each so they can't contest the will by saying you forgot about them. Doan Type 1 Error says, wait, what? And then quotes, I'm getting phone calls from Matt's wife and family friends saying that my husband and I overreacted and he was just angry that we were playing favorites. Then goes on to say, your son abandoned his daughter and they accuse you of playing favorites? It sounds like your son, his wife, and her miserable family are meant for each other. Cut off all contact and enjoy the time you have left together. You Not the Arami says, not the a-hole. Dude abandoned his family and only came sniffing back around when his dad was in a bad state and he thought he might get something out of it. He couldn't even be civil and fake nice long enough for that conversation. You, Kogi Kane, says, not the a-hole. Boy, money makes people do horrible things. Seems like Matt and his current wife are just worried about money more than anything else. That's quite gross and sickening. Cannot respect a man disowning his own daughter. You, Juicy Goosey Lucy says, not the a-hole. Answer, wow. What on earth happened to your son that he turned out like that? And OP replies saying, I love him, but sometimes I feel as if I failed as a mother. And one more from you Wild Skis who says, Matt is a misogynist. Matt is a jerk and a disappointment. You don't have to let Matt believe you think anything else, because ultimately he isn't going to change. Matt is a user, not a drug user, but a people user. He doesn't care about anyone but himself. There's no reason to enable him to use you or your spouse's money to further abuse people. Not the a-hole. And now, let's head on straight over to the update to find out what happened next. I'm sorry for not updating. Not much has gone on, and I wanted to wait till everything was cleared up till I did update. The situation is what my grandchildren have described as messy. There's a lot that happened, so I tried to sum it up in one explanation. We've been trying to talk with Matthew for several weeks after what happened, and we were only met with silence. He and his wife would refuse us at the door, and he never answered his phone. There was obviously something we didn't know from his side of the story, but we can't make a judgment based on what we could possibly not know. I sat Josie down and asked her if she knew what could possibly be happening. She never talked about her and Matt's marriage much, and we never pried. Josie broke down and told us that their marriage wasn't great from the beginning and that Matt cheating wasn't something new, and then moving here was because he told her he would stop once he was closer to his family. She says she never told us because she was embarrassed, and she didn't want to turn us against our son. A few days ago, Matthew came by our house well after midnight while drunk. He insisted on talking, so I brought him to the basement patio. He told me that he thought Josie was cheating on him from the beginning, but he had no proof nor any reason to think it. He just couldn't think that such a pretty ex-party girl would stay faithful. Josie getting pregnant wasn't off track for their bedroom life, but he just couldn't believe it. There wasn't much sense to his words, but he did say, "She's so pretty, and I love her so much. Why would she stay faithful?" He started having affairs after Ruth was born, and Josie knew. She stayed because she didn't want Ruth to have a dysfunctional family. Eventually, he started repeating that he feth. Ed up and being a crappy father is the only thing he's good at, and that he can't disappoint anyone if there's nothing to look forward to with him. He said, "I'm an a-hole, and that's it. No changing it. I'm not good for being the villain," and called his wife for a ride home. He's gone back to ignoring us, and I'm not sure what to do. His wife, Elias, told us that she's tried, and it's not a fight we're going to win. In an even longer story short, Ruth is 100% Matt's daughter, and it looks like we're going to have to raise our grandson too. Hope everyone has gotten their fill of drama today. Gee whiz. So it turned out to be his insecurities causing this all along. But what do you guys think of this situation? Do you think, I can't see any much happening unless he's going to help himself in that situation? I mean, not that I think he's ever going to get back with Josie or anything like that, but to help himself in some ways. Dear me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story also comes from a throwaway account and follows with an update as well, titled, "Am I the a-hole for calling my wife a hypocrite for making our son do chores? When he's sick but not our daughter? Throwaway, sorry for any mistakes, not my first language. My wife, 43, and I, 41, have 2 kids, a 6-year-old son from a previous relationship of mine, and a 4-year-old daughter. My son has been living with us full-time since he was 4. On to the current issue. My son has been suffering from cluster headaches for about 1 year now. They run in my family. He gets them every other month. Yesterday, he got hit by one again while I was at work and my wife was home. When I got home in the afternoon, I found my son in the driveway carrying pots of plants inside. My wife loves everything that has to do with gardening and plants and regularly buys new ones, or rather attempts to. He was visibly in pain, pale, moving slowly, the typical watery eye, etc. When I asked him what he was doing, he told me my wife had told him to help her move those, but I didn't think he was in any condition to do so and sent him inside and to go to bed. I got inside and confronted my wife with it, and she immediately got mad at me, saying it wasn't a big deal for him and that she had to take him one of his pills. They helped, but can only do so much. So I reminded her that she lets our daughter stay home from school for 2 days every month and frees her of any chores when she's on her period and is essentially being a biased hypocrite. We argued for a while, and she said I'm undermining her authority, but I insisted on leaving our son alone for the day and carried the plants inside myself, which I'd have done anyway had she just waited for me. Just to clarify, I don't interfere with my wife keeping our daughter home when she's not well. If she says that's necessary, then it's fine with me. I'm also not asking what is worse, but I don't think it was okay of her to make our son do this when he was in a lot of pain and basically grimacing with every movement. She also knows that he's not that great at standing up for himself. But am I the a-hole for that argument? You Otherwise window said, not the a-hole. You should probably investigate in what other ways your wife is actively abusive towards your son. To which OP replied saying, hey, thank you. I can't keep up all the replies. This is wild. About my son and my wife's relationship in the past, she's always been an important figure in his life, as it was very hard on him to lose his bio mom so early. She got really sick shortly after his 4th birthday and has been unable to care for him since. My wife made an effort to be a good stepmom to him. However, she did get stricter on him as he became a teenager, has experienced some bad stories about kids turning their backs on step-parents in her family. We talked about this a lot and even did counseling for a while, which helped the issue. That being said, I was caught off guard and extremely shocked when I heard what my wife had made him do while he was unwell. I'd definitely investigate now. We have a small vacation house. I'm thinking of taking him there for the weekend. I don't know. He usually tells me things, and I think there's multiple routes we could go down here. Her treating her daughter differently, because obviously she's a bio daughter. It could be to do with sexism. It could be because, she's a girl, he's a boy. There could be a whole bunch of ways that we could go down. But any way that we go, it's going to be not the a-hole in this situation. But you, Cake Eating Rabbit says, as a person with headaches and period pain, your wife is an a-hole. You, Mr. J says, not the a-hole, but your wife is. Seems to me like her daughter gets special treatment over your son. I know both of your children. Either she is sexist and thinks women are inferior to men since the daughter doesn't have to do any chores because of her period, but your son has to do chores through cluster headaches, or she has less respect for your son since she didn't give birth to him. You Halloween lover says, not the a-hole. I don't think your wife likes your son. You Cascudo says, not the a-hole. There is a double standard here, either based on gender, or she might be just biased towards her own blood. And one more from Udamites, who says, not the a-hole. I'd be more worried that your wife is prioritizing one over the other. Now, with that information, let's go to the update to find out what happened next. So, hey everyone, I've been asked for an update on this. I've talked to my son and wife about the issue and made a decision. I asked my wife exactly how the whole thing happened. She said she gave him a pill around noon when he started to feel bad, then went out for a while and only caught up to him if he could help when she got back. She didn't see him, so she thought he was fine when he went out. I was shocked that she didn't check on him. She said she was sorry and wanted to apologize to him. My son has assured me that his stepmom hasn't made him work when he was sick before. This was the first time. And while I was glad about that, I dug a little deeper and asked him if he's ever felt less than his sister in the eyes of his stepmother. He admitted that he did start feeling this way as he became a teenager, not when he was a child though, but he never told me about it. Nothing bad happened, so he didn't think he should mention his feelings. I was very shocked about this. We talk a lot normally, and told him he needs to tell me things like that, even if they seem small in isolation. However, due to this dangerous lack of concern on my wife's side and my son's feelings, I decided we will spend some time at my brother's to figure everything out. My son is sad about it, but he understands my decision. He's too good of a kid to be mistreated in any way, and I don't want him to learn that it's okay to ignore your well-being for other people. I'm proud of his kindness, but I don't want to see it being abused, especially by my family. Thanks all, and edit. Since I got a lot of questions about this, we haven't moved out permanently. I only want to get some space between my wife and son. I've talked about this with my daughter, and she understands that there's issues between her mom and half-brother we need to solve and isn't sad about it. And the comments below this update were pretty much that, "You're taking this too far now. You know, son admitted, son said, this hasn't happened before. Wife was really apologetic and wanted to apologize to him. So now you taking the son out of that situation and take him to your brother's, whatever, it's just going to, further damage their relationship." And that's just paraphrasing from some of the comments down below, quite a few, actually. So now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of that update? Do you think, that's taking it too far? Do you think he did the right thing? Do you think the relationship can be repaired quite easily? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to another story. And the next story is from you Cake Throwaway, titled, "Am I the a-hole for getting upset with my best friend's son for giving my son cake? My son is 8 years old and recently attended his friend's 8th birthday party. This friend is my best friend's son. I don't let my son have much junk food at all, and usually he brings his own snacks. For this incident, it was carrot sticks and ranch to events that have a lot of sugary food. My best friend bakes a lot and made a special chocolate cake for her son's birthday. When it comes to my son, I don't let him have cake. This is a personal preference for his health, not for any allergy reasons, and he is not diabetic or gluten-free. My son knows he isn't allowed to have cake because of the additives. When he told his best friend this at the party, his friend apparently got upset and told him it was good cake, not bad, like I say, because his mom made it and it was his birthday cake. My son ate cake, got a sugar rush, and crashed, making him cranky for the rest of the day after we left the party. I told my friend she needs to have some kind of consequences for her son to teach him not to peer pressure other children into eating things they're not allowed to have. She said, because it wasn't an issue of allergies or health, that she's sorry my son was cranky, but she wasn't punishing her son or talking to him about it on his birthday. She says also that she should just watch more closely and make sure her husband does in the future, as well as have a chat with him on another day about respecting food habits. I love my friend, but historically, her and her husband have always said yes to the son and not giving him any consequences for anything. Both of us were present at the party and did not see him sharing the cake. They were outside eating in the backyard with their fathers and some other parents supervising while we cleaned up. So it's not an issue of going behind anyone's back, just teaching children boundaries and respect. I let my son stay for the rest of the party and be with his friend, so it's not like I ruined the day. Am I the a-hole for being upset with my friend's son and the fact she won't punish her son for pressuring my son into eating cake? Now, rightly or wrongly in this situation, I'm going to come into this one that I'm a believer of sort of moderation. Don't have loads of cake, don't have loads of sweets, don't have loads of beer, whatever, especially kids. But a little slice of cake in this situation, is it going to hurt him? And again, I don't know if I'm going to get hate for that or not. But I read a story not so long back about someone was in a very similar situation that was brought up, no junk food at all. And they have a bit of a social media presence now, and they go through and make videos about things they haven't tried in the past. And I saw one where they ate pizza, and it was the most amazing video I've seen. They almost cried with joy. Again, all I'm saying is moderation. Obviously, don't binge eat cake, yummy, and pizza and stuff like that. I think everything in moderation is an okay thing. When I say everything, I mean not things that are real bad for you or anything like that, but hopefully you know where I'm coming from here. But we'll start off with you, SoMR Edit User Now, who says, God forbid your son experience a moment of joy and celebration. You're the a-hole. For your information, sugar rushes are a myth. They've been debunked many, many times by scientists and medical professionals. That your son was irritable for the rest of the day was likely because, having had fun at a friend's birthday party, you pissed all over his enjoyment of the party with a ridiculous attitude and over-the-top indignation of the whole party. I can only imagine your son's embarrassment at you having the utter gall to demand consequences for a kid on his birthday who shared his cake with your son, who, by your own admission, has no health issues that would be affected by said cake. It wasn't the cake that made your son irritable, it was you. I seriously doubt that you being declared the a-hole in this will in any way soften your views on such things. It's perfectly fine to want to make sure that your kids eat nutritiously. You also shouldn't be a fascist about it. In fact, the more you try to exert such iron control over it, the higher the likelihood you will drive your son straight into an eating disorder. There isn't a doubt in my mind that your son has a stash of candy at various places because of you. You 2 cents for free says, you're the a-hole. It was cake on a special occasion. Your son isn't being fed cake daily. Also, you have issues with additives in cake but find ranch to be acceptable? Edit. I thought about this more, and honestly, if I was your best friend, I'd be pissed at you asking you to talk to your own kid. He made her son feel bad about the cake she made him for his birthday. He felt the need to defend the cake and was upset by what your son said. You, my rocky spine says, you're the a-hole. 1. Your son is old enough to say no to a piece of cake. 2. You were there, so watch your own kid. 3. Science has proven over and over a sugar rush is not a real thing, so that was not an issue, and your kid was cranky over something else. 4. Lighten up and let your kid have fun. Good Lord. You Simply Sam 4210 says, you're the a-hole, and here's what's going to happen. When your son realizes all the food that he's not allowed to eat, he's going to sneak it. He will learn to sneak other things. He will have food issues and possibly a weight problem. Kids need to be taught that food is fine, and we eat in moderation. You, Dart1126 says, you're the a-hole. The 8-year-old kid at his own birthday party offered a piece of cake his mother made for him. To your 8-year-old kid, his friend, and you want him to have some kind of consequences? Get over yourself. The kid didn't pressure him. Your son said, I can't eat the cake because it's bad for me and I have an overbearing mother who tells me that, and the kid just said, there's nothing bad in my mom's cake. Your kid didn't have to eat it. He chose to. And no, neither she nor her husband have any serious plans to discuss respecting food habits, but they are sure discussing you right now. Now, what do you guys make of this one? I'm so hungry for cake right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and just a huge thank you for spending your time with me today, getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time means the absolute world to me. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love. Have a good day.